question the other day that I actually asked over in Alabama about the effects of the dispersants in the oil and how that affects the birds internally and externally in the cleaning.
I don't know internally. Nobody knows that. And as far as I know, I mean, we've never had to deal with that much dispersant. I mean, we've seen it a little bit on spills, but the birds never seem to be near it. And this is the first time when we've ever really seen it on the birds. Now, early on when we started getting birds weeks ago, we started to see birds with kind of this wet, discolored stuff, but it clearly wasn't oil. It had an unusual smell. We assumed it was dispersant. Feather samples were taken. They're sent away. We don't know what they were, but that's what we assumed. Now, as far as internally, we don't know. I mean, nobody has seemed to have any fear responses to it.
So you haven't gotten any information. What is it, Nalco, who produces the dispersants?
Yeah, that's what I heard, but no, we haven't got anything about it. And I don't think anybody probably has done tests to see how it affects these guys.
Okay.
They're fanning me. I can feel it.
So you don't know about what the long-term effect will be?
No, don't know.
In terms of, what about the oil having been through other spills? Do you know?
Well, the oil has a potential effect on the birds, because if they ingest it, then they can, of course, it can have long-term effects to their health. What I'm saying about this oil, and this is just clearly anecdotal from my observation and from experience that I've had, is that this oil that we're getting on these are those guys that came in really oil. These are a lot of them, and the oil is starting to dry out from the wind and wave action. And what's happening is all the benzenes and all the light ends are evaporating off it, so it's becoming slowly tarry. I mean, over time, over years, it would turn into tar, right? So on them, it's just getting a little dry, so they're not ingesting much of it. It's on their feathers, but they have those long bills, and you can see it in their pouch, but they're not gulping amounts of it. So these birds, what we're seeing in taking the little teeny blood values we do, is that doesn't seem to be any toxic effects. So I think that's the good thing about
excellent.
this. Yeah, that's if you can find any good thing about this spill, that's the good thing. And you can see they're doing really well. But the reality is, the biggest issue for them, in my opinion, is they're being released in Texas, but there's only a matter of time till they want to come back. I mean, it's their home here, and they want to go back to their nest. And the other thing I want to point out is all these white-headed ones are the adults. Like this guy right here, the brown one, he's a juvenile. It's not sexually mature yet, but those are all mature birds. So that's
when do they change?
3 years of age. At 3 years of age, they start getting that. So that's a little female right there on the ramp. She's small. He's probably, it looks like a girl. The big boy, there's a big boy on the left, are the boys. And when they get the whiteheads, they typically are adults. So every white-headed bird here you see is representing a nest. So that means if it's here, its babies have died, because it has to have two parents to feed them.
Have you had many babies?
We got a lot of babies here. We have 20, 50 or 60, and there's thousands more out there. But we have some here now, and they're being raised, and we're working on a program to send them somewhere to be raised, because they have to be. When they restored this population here, it was this incredible conservation project they did, where they brought babies from Florida, brought them to these islands out here, the Breton Islands, and then raised them, and they became the breeding stock for this population. And these are their descendants. And but what we've done in the past, when we raise babies, we raise them out on the islands, because then they just leave when they get old enough with parents, with other parents and adults, and they start feeding. Since the islands are likely to be impacted this summer, they're going to have to go somewhere else. So we're working on a program to send them somewhere else.
So build another island somewhere else?
Well, probably. They're either going to probably go to Texas or Florida or somewhere where there's other healthier pelican populations right now.
Now, I understand that IBRR and Louisiana Fish and Wildlife had a little problem with rescuing, and you guys stepped back from the rescuing?
You heard about that. Well, what it really was...
have you worked out?
Not really. What happened was, we're doing a lot of capture in the other states. We have a whole program that we're doing that. There's... how do I say this in a fair way? There's an incredible amount of bureaucracy in oil spills.
In any animal rescue.
In any animal rescue. If you do animal rescues, you know the story, right? Okay, and oil spills, we do oil spills all the time, so we know what they're like. What happened here is that when it first started, because there's all these wildlife refuges and things, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service staked their claim to the areas that they're responsible for, appropriately so. I mean, that's their areas, and we worked with them before here. And then the state of Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries, they got in there too. So they have their own turf force. And then we just come in to help, and we're the ones that are kind of like the experts. Not that they can't go capture birds, They do all the time. But we do bird capture in oil spills all the time. And I don't think we were really integrated because I don't think the message got out that we were there to help them. We were just kind of like the bird watchers. So to some of them, we met some incredible people that are doing a great job out there. They caught these birds.
Right.
But then there's other ones that were really kind of cowboy in it, like you're in my territory, that kind of stuff. So we dealt with it. So we had our people work around them and do the best we could. And we finally just pulled back. We had so many come in here. We said, let's focus on these guys and let them catch the birds. That's kind of how we did it, and just figured that it wasn't a battle to be won. And they were doing the job, and they have. Well, U.S. Fish and Wildlife has over 150 people out there, and I know that the state have a whole bunch, and I don't know how many, and I figured they need to figure it out, and they'll help. Now what we're being asked to do is provide some training for their new people coming in, which is really great, because that's what we do really good. So.
And what is the basic procedure? I mean, I've seen people come up in a little boat, sort of chase them up off the island and scoop them up.
Well, there's many different techniques to catch oil birds. It depends. I mean, the babies you walk up and pick up, right? Obviously.
Well, what about the little terns? I've seen a lot of little oil terns.
Yeah. The real issue is when they're flighted. That's the hard thing. So you can catch them in nets, in cannon nets, which are risky because you're shooting something over them, you can hurt them, and they get hot real quick. So there's those. There's cannon guns. There's baiting them in with like fish, like you see here, where we throw the fish and they come to you. That typically works for pelicans and gulls, not for terns. And so there's all these different techniques. But the key thing for us is that we always set up a strategy around it, and every day we review it and decide where to go. And I know that there's been a plan from the beginning about how to approach the capture. We haven't really been privy to it because it's been very much a governmental thing. So that's kind of how we stand.
Can you tell me what other birds besides the reddish heron that you were talking about?
The reddish egret.
Egret.
Yeah, that's right.
What other birds are you taking?
Well, we have a lot of little laughing gulls, the little gulls out here, and various species of terns, sandwich terns, royal terns, and least terns, and then we have some black-crowned night herons and some egrets and some plovers, little shorebirds, and I'm trying to think of what else. We had a little least bittern, which are those little tiny, beautiful bitterns, and actually he got released. And,
any spoonbills?
No, we haven't had any spoonbills. We had one ibis come in very, very oiled. It was found way out on one of the booms, way out in the water, and it was very sick and died. And so we had a couple of oyster catchers. One got released. The other one was very weak. And a few other miscellaneous little birds.
Snowy egrets or great egrets?
Yeah, a couple of snowies. There's one in here now. He got loose yesterday. We caught him. He was flying around the warehouse. Yeah, he's in good shape. We're like, this is egret circling.
I saw some frigate birds up.
We get one frigate bird in, but he had a broken leg, and he came in early on. He was very old, and we don't know what happened to him, but it was very badly mangled, so he had to be euthanized.